The real monsters. To those who dare to fight stronger opponents. Luceria sent only one real monster to kill Elisa and bring Garsha back. She knew sending more would risk killing him too and could not dare such an attack. The friends had to leave the temple grounds and the wavy hills region behind. Garsha called to them giant fruit bats who could fly through the forest blind. Garsha needed to get to the great library and discover what he must do. Until he could learn what he was facing, he had no way to see his friends through. They mounted the bats, who rushed through the forest, zipping between flowering trees. They greatly outdistanced the monster that night and slept the next morning with ease. Around noon, Garsha called huge butterflies to fly them between giant flowers. The most beautiful part of their journey began. They relaxed in their swift flight for hours. Yet the real monster found them at last. Philip blasted it with solid fire. This barely had an effect on the beast and only raised its ire. But Garsha told Philip, "Make it crash into the stem of a flower." It collided with such tremendous force that it knocked it down like a tower. The friends flew away for several more hours until the cool of the night. Since butterflies can't fly at night like bats, they had to stop in their flight. The friends walked on for a couple of hours till they came to Gundar's inn. They heard sweet music from the inside and decided to venture in. They spent the evening hearing beautiful songs and eating delicious food, but the monster had stolen Gundar's form and destroyed their happy mood. It became an ice demon of awesome power, and Philip fought it with solid flame. Their battle destroyed the entire inn, but the monster died all the same. Next, Garsha called flying white unicorns to fly through the golden hills, a forest of giant autumn trees whose beauty gave them all chills. They flew until sunset the following day when they came to an old water mill. They decided they must stop for the night and get out of the evening's chill. But in the dark of the night the mill started working, and Philip knew something was there. Garsha said, "It's a powerful ground demon that can change matter, so beware." Philip had trouble defeating this monster who tried to bury him in sludge. Yet when he killed it, Garsha was hurt, so for a time they could not budge. Garsha's mind was still attached to the gem in a way he could not explain. Every time they used solid fire, it weakened him and caused great pain. Yet they once more mounted the unicorns and headed south toward the great library. But when they reached the forgotten swamp, the unicorns stopped and were wary. They would go no further, so Garsha called giant bright-colored damselflies. They raced over the swamp between other huge insects, feeling heat and mugginess rise. But near the south end, when the friends were asleep, the swamp air started to chill. The damselflies landed and shivered with cold, and when Philip looked up, he felt ill. The entire sky was a dark hurricane with gigantic flashes of lightning. Its center was moving straight toward the friends, and Philip felt his guts tightening. He sent vast solid flames blazing up straight through the heart of the storm. After many attempts, he finally succeeded to strike the wind demon's form. It took many great blasts to at last kill the monster, but Garsha was suffering bad. His mouth and nose were trickling blood. His whole body was hurting like mad. Yet he forced himself up, and they began walking, and in hours reached the swamp's southern end. And a few hours later they found a sign marked Ithania, not expecting to find a new friend. It pointed to a sweeping bowl-shaped valley with huge flowering vines for its floor. Beneath was a super-cylindrical chamber like an entire new world to explore. The vines were all wonderfully woven together by a colossal furry white being. It had many limbs, and eyes did abound, yet was gentle and nearly all-seeing. She lowered the friends safely into the chamber, where they saw incredible sights, forests, mountains, and rivers on the vast curving sides, enormous butterflies soaring the heights. The being took a beautiful human-like shape to help the friends' hopes be unfurled. She told them, "I am the goddess Athania. Long ago I formed this whole world." She gave them delicious food and drink, then freed the fire gem from Garsha's mind. She told the friends everything she knew of Luceria, but her life was prepared to unwind. The great vines all began crumbling to dust. Her giant weaver form fell to the floor. The chamber started shaking and falling apart, for Athania's life was no more. But she had called an enormous butterfly to carry the friends far away. They barely got out before the chamber dissolved, as though it never existed that day. Garsha told the butterfly, "Please carry us to Iluria's great library," for he hoped to defeat Luceria's plans, which he knew were utterly scary. The butterfly flew through the great gates of gauze and raced toward the huge wondrous building, where 8 bridges spanned a deep river gorge. Garsha felt like their hopes were fulfilling. They dismounted near one of the 8 giant halls and walked to the vast reference room. They met an old librarian who knew the place well. He would show them how to avoid doom. He led them up many flights of stairs to a room high above the courtyard, then showed them the works of the most brilliant dream lords and left them to study hard. The friends looked through much of the last works of Kolo, for he was the greatest dream ruler. But Garsha found a prophecy about his friend's future that would fill their minds with horror. Almost too incredible for him to believe, Garsha knew that he had to keep silent. The fate of existence hung in the balance, and possible deaths filled with torment. He started closing up all of the books, then told his friends, "We are done." He pulled the bell lever to call the librarian. They sat waiting for him to come. But when he arrived, he melted like a candle and became a huge column of water. It chased the friends all around the library, causing a hideous slaughter. The terrible rampage killed many brownies and destroyed many thousands of books. The water demon tore through the reference rotunda before the fire gem could dig in its hooks. But Garsha tricked the monster into a dead end, while his friends ducked in a side hall. Then he fired solid flames to corner the beast and destroyed it once and for all. The friends soon discovered a passage outside. Garsha called 4 giant hummingbirds, who winged them swiftly toward the Temple of Dreams, but soon their horror was far beyond words. They saw countless spinning swords rising out of Fire Mountain, reaching like glitter across the sky, extending all the way to the Temple of Dreams. The friends all felt they might cry. It took several hours to make the trip back to the ruined temple grounds. Countless swords were swirling around like a maelstrom, the air filled with swishing sounds. Yet the hummingbirds flew them over this horror and landed them right by the entrance. The friends knew they had to make one final stand to determine the fate of existence.